All right, and welcome everybody to the very last Monster Monday for the monster of a year that has been 2020. My God, if somebody were going to put stat blocks for D&D 5e on the year 2020, what would the stat block of that monster be? I don't know. Someday I may have to stat that up and try to do something with that. But tonight, for our last Monster Monday of 2020, we are going to do a little bit of catch up. Um, and I don't mean we are going to squeeze tomatoes and make a condiment out of them. What I mean is we are going to go back since we were scheduled to start on the monsters that begin with B this week. We are going to go back through the source books that got released during 2020, and we are going to pick up the monsters beginning with A that we missed because we had already passed their point in the alphabet when those books came out. So, the next few weeks, we are going to be dipping back into those. And tonight, up for examination is the Abhorrent Overlord. This is Monster Monday for December 28th, 2020. I'm your host, DM Gallibond, and I am also fighting a little bit of a seasonal sniffle, so occasionally I am going to do what I do right now, which is to mute and blow my nose. All right, we are back. And the Abhorrent Overlord is a creature that is new for 5th edition, and it is a creature that comes from the second of the source books to be derived from Wizards of the Coast's other IP, which is Magic the Gathering. A few years ago, we had Ravnica, and dropping in 2020, we had the Theros book. And the Abhorrent Overlord is a monster out of Theros. So we're going to take a little bit of a look at this. The artwork that they use in D&D Beyond for D&D 5e is the same artwork that comes off the card. So that makes the art easy here. In D&D, the Abhorrent Overlords are gaunt, bipedal creatures whose gray, leathery skin is stark contrast to the gleaming jewelry made of underworld gold they adorn themselves with. Their appetite for pain and death is eclipsed only by their greed. These fiends delight in searching out treasure and slaughtering all who stand in their way. They have fell minions. Harpies, vultures, crows, and other flying scavengers are attracted to the Abhorrent Overlord's presence, drawn by its evil and the promise of warm meat. An Abhorrent Overlord has no sense of loyalty or camaraderie towards these sycophants, and often devours members of its retinue, yet more of the same continue to flock around the demon, offering fealty and squabbling for scraps. And a little bit about where they ultimately come from in the lore. Some foul souls can't let go of the miserable lives they had, having been despicable in life. These spirits fester in death, the worst of these hateful dead, through ages of bitterness, gradually transform into fiends, the tormentors of the underworld. The people of Theros know these fiends as demons. All right. So, that is sort of a description of the Abhorrent Overlord. And that's a description out of D&D. So now, um, I looked and I looked and I looked and I looked, and uh, there really isn't a whole lot of mention about abhorrent overlords in the usual fan sites that you find lore about creatures in Magic the Gathering. Just like there's the Faerun wiki, there are tons of wikis that fans of Magic the Gathering have put together, and a lot of them collect little tidbits of information and lore and things about the different monsters and stuff. And so when we have a monster that is a crossover, I kind of like to go to those sources and look, and I just couldn't find anything on this Abhorrent Overlord. So we're just going to use the text straight off the card. So, the Abhorrent Overlord has flying. When it enters the battlefield, you create a number of 1/1 black harpy creature tokens with flying equal to your devotion to black. And each black and the mana cost of permanents you control counts towards your devotion to black. And at the beginning of your upkeep, it forces you to sacrifice a creature. Back when I played Magic the Gathering more regularly, way, way, way back in the day when Magic first came out, there was one of my favorite cards that sort of reminds me of this one, and that was the old Lord of the Pit. Um, I think Lord of the Pit was about the same power toughness as this guy in Magic, and had that same feature that uh, you had to sacrifice creatures to it every turn in order to keep it out on the board. So I don't know if maybe um, within Magic the Abhorrent Overlord is an attempt to reskin the Lord of the Pit, or whether it's meant to occupy a different niche entirely. But um, from a surface examination, they really do look very similar. All right. So thinking about the D&D version of this, the creature type is Fiend. Fiends are creatures of wickedness that are native to lower planes. A few are servants of deities, but many more labor under the leadership of archdevils and demon princes. Evil priests and mages sometimes summon fiends to the material world to do their bidding. If an evil celestial is a rarity, a good fiend is almost inconceivable. Fiends include demons, devils, hellhounds, rakshasas, and yugalas. Okay, now, hang on, please. One thing I did discover in the Theros sourcebook is that in the plane of Theros, all fiends are considered demons, period. There is no distinction in Thoros between what demons are and what devils are. Everything that's a fiend is a demon. Full stop. Um, in my Walker of Waterdeep game, one of the interesting things I found in the lore with demons and devils is that in the plane of Innistrad, which is the sort of gothic horror plane, it's kind of got all the vampires and werewolves and all that kind of stuff. Well, it's got demons and devils in it both, but in the Magic the Gathering lore, demons and devils are switched from what they are in D&D. Demons in Innistrad are the lawful evil. Devils in Innistrad are the chaotic evil. If you go to the cosmology of fiends and the sort of the structure of fiends in D&D, demons are the chaotic evil. Devils are the lawful evil. So that's just an interesting little change in the way that those operate. All right. Okay, there's always one slide that I don't update Faddle. Mechanical features of the Abhorrent Overlord. All right, so we are going to take a look at the Abhorrent Overlord um, right now from Magic the Gathering, because this is where it appeared first. It appeared in the um, Theros, uh, in the Theros expansion from 2013. And the Abhorrent Overlord is a 7 casting cost creature. Requires 2 black mana and 5 of any other color. It's classified as a demon, has flying. We already looked at the card text. Power and toughness is 6/6. It is a rare card out of the Theros set. And according to the community rating, it is a 3-star or 3.4666 or 3.466 stars out of 5, according to 87 people who have voted. For those of you who are familiar with it, or more specifically, those of you who are not familiar with it but interested in it, Gatherer, um, gatherer.wizards.com, that is the database that Wizards of the Coast has for every single Magic the Gathering card that has ever been printed from all of the expansions. So if you remember there was an expansion and you remember some really cool cards, you can go in and you can look up the expansion and you can look for the card. Or if you remember the card name but you can't remember what expansion it comes from, you can plug in the card name and it'll pull up and it will tell you all of the expansions that that card has been in. And one of the nice things is it gives you all the little symbols for all the sets. So, um, Magic the Gathering has always had these cool little symbols for the sets. And pro tip for those of you who are DMs in D&D, man, if you have like a little screen capture software, graphics manipulation software, and you want to get some kind of cool little symbol just to go in some little illustration somewhere that has nothing to do with anything else in your D&D game, you can just run through all of the Magic the Gathering releases and find a really cool symbol out of there. Now, if you have some players at your table that play Magic the Gathering, they'll go, "Ooh, I know what that is." But otherwise, everybody would be none the wiser. And it's just, cool little artwork that you can use and whatnot. So, now let's take a look at the Abhorrent Overlord when it came to uh, D&D 5e, and then I'm going to give you a bonus, and I'm going to tell you that if this creature ever appeared in the Walker of Waterdeep campaign, I'm going to tell you how I would manipulate it, um, and the reason why I would do it, for the benefit of my players. All right. It has come over as a CR9 creature. So it's a 7 casting cost, power toughness 6/6. That they decided that means that it should be a CR9 creature. It has armor class 16, 136 hit points, so movement speed of 30, a fly speed of 60, +4 on its initiative. It's got a pretty decent stat block with 14 being its lowest score here, and 20 in strength, 18 in dex, so pretty dexterous. Has bonus on its saving throws for con and charisma. Has deception, intimidation, persuasion, resistant to cold and necrotic, immune to poison, and immune to the poison condition. Has innate spell casting, just once a day, 3 spells: Confusion, Crown of Madness, Suggestion, Insatiable Greed. Can sense the presence of gold within 1,000 feet, can determine which location has the greatest amount of gold and sense the direction to that site. It has resistance to magic, attacks, and spells. 2 attacks with its claws, plus 9 to hit, 14 or 2d8 plus 5 slashing damage, and 4d6 necrotic damage. And then it regains hit points equal to half the amount of necrotic damage if the target is a creature. So this thing doesn't get automatic regeneration, but every time it hits, it regenerates half of the necrotic damage that it deals. So Storm of Crows, recharge 6, conjures a swarm of spectral crows and harpies in a 20-foot radius sphere centered on a point the Overlord can see within 120 feet. And that sphere remains for a minute or until the Overlord loses concentration. And any creature that moves into the area must make a DC 15 con save and takes 16 or 3d10 slashing damage and 3d10 psychic damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful save. All right, so I said that's what officially the Abhorrent Overlord would be. Now, in my Walker of Waterdeep game, I convert creatures from Magic to D&D, but I do it based on the skill and strength and power of my party. So, the formula that I have worked out is that for me, I um, I use a combination, an algorithm that takes into account the combination of the casting cost and the toughness of the creature, and that gives me the CR of the creature. And then I take into account the power of the creature, and that serves usually as a basis for the attack value that the creature has. So this thing would be a little bit higher than a CR9, and it would have a little bit more powerful attack um, than the than what it has here. Otherwise, because it has flying, I would use a flying creature. If it has special abilities like this, I would look for something that is spell casting or something that um, that deals like sacrificial damage or deals damage to another target or something of that nature um, in the stat block for D&D. And then I would maybe give it a couple of custom abilities that reflect more of the flavor of what the card text says here. Okay. Hold on just one more second, please. All right, so we're going to go back and we're going to get back into this. Now, how would we use the Abhorrent Overlord in encounters? Now, this is using um, the stat block out of D&D 5e. How would you use this to create a hard challenge with these creatures? I always think of a party of 5 PCs with a certain level. So if you take this CR9 creature by itself, that becomes a borderline deadly challenge for a group of 5 level 5 PCs. So you probably don't want to throw a CR9 enemy at a party that is level 4 or lower, because that would be just a little bit too tough for them. At level 6, it's a hard challenge. So it's pretty well balanced, depending on the experience of your players and how well they cooperate with each other, the synergies that they get at the table. Level 5 or level 6 party would be pretty good match for an Abhorrent Overlord right out of the book. Level 7 or 8, it's a medium challenge. So you're probably not going to tax the players too much. If you want to bump it up and push it into a hard challenge, then you can add up to 1 harpy. And then anywhere from a party of level 9 through level 12, the Abhorrent Overlord by itself is just an easy challenge. Now, if you want to push it up to a hard challenge, and this is a hard challenge for a level 12 party, mind you, you can add either a second Abhorrent Overlord, or you can add a total of 12 harpies. Harpies are D&D creatures. They are CR1 creatures. You add 12 of those and an Abhorrent Overlord, and that will make a hard challenge for a level 12 party. Those Now you think, oh my goodness, this is a lot of enemies to run. Yes, it is a lot of enemies to run, and it also gives your party a lot of targets to think about. And that's one of the reasons why it makes it a harder challenge, is because they have to deal with, if they focus on a couple of enemies over here, then all these enemies over there are able to make their attacks unmolested. And if your party tries to spread your attacks out, then if they can't deal enough damage with one shot to either disable or kill several of the enemies, then okay, they've got a lot to deal with over several rounds. All right, now where would you place the Abhorrent Overlord in a campaign? Well, the most obvious place is to use it in a campaign centered in Theros, specifically in the underworld realm that's ruled by Erebos, the god of death. Now, Theros, yes, it's a Magic the Gathering expansion, but if you look at everything in it, and if you especially look at the source book that came out for D&D, um, the entire expansion of Theros really draws from Greek and Roman myths. And if you think about some of those myths, like especially the Odyssey, or I'm sorry, not the Odyssey, the Iliad, which is the first half of the dual epic that is the Iliad and the Odyssey put together. So Homer's first epic in the Iliad, there's a part in there where Odysseus, I believe it's Odysseus, goes down into the underworld to visit his father. And then in the Roman sort of version of that, the Aeneid, um, you see Aeneas going down into the underworld to visit the ghost of his father. So there's this there's this theme in certain myths from Greek and Roman mythology about people going into the underworld. So you could have a whole adventure or a whole arc of your campaign that is set on going into the underworld, where maybe your party has to go and find out some information from some long dead king or hero or ancestor or something like that. And then, of course, while they're there, they have to dodge all of the stuff going on because they are in the realm of Erebos. So, um, the setting of this underworld provides an opportunity to tell an epic tale patterned after one of your favorite stories from mythology, or it lets you create an entirely new story dealing with a need to obtain something vital from a creature that has already died. So that's kind of like the easiest way of using the Abhorrent Overlord in a campaign. Now, how might you reskin the monster? So the Abhorrent Overlord is both a fiend and an immortal. The theme of it indicates it would have a bunch of minions. So you could reskin this creature and decide, okay, I'm going to get rid of the entire fiend, the entire immortal thing. Maybe, maybe it's a crime lord. And maybe all those minions are all kind of the goons, the crime lord. So think of kind of a stereotypical, um, think of like your Godfather movies, your stereotypical mob movies, where you have the mob don, or the boss, and this guy maybe could be the boss. And then now shift that over into sort of a D&D setting. So you've got the crime lord and then all of the lieutenants and goons and everything running around, in there. A little bit of a preview for next year in Monster Monday. We are going to get to um, some of the monsters that are part of cults. And when we get to those, my plan is to just go ahead and sort of give you the entire tree in that one Monster Monday, give you the entire tree of enemies or monsters that make up that cult, and sort of show you how D&D, the designers of D&D, have put together an entire cult, kind of as a little framework, so that if you want to build a homebrew cult from the ground up, you can sort of see, oh, okay, well, they have the boss that's this CR, and then they have two or three different types of enemies that are at different tiers, and some of them are divine casters, some of them are melee, some of them are range, some of them are arcane casters, and sort of how that all mixes together, so that uh, you can see that whole group as a unit instead of going and looking at them piecemeal, where it might be harder to see how all those pieces fit together. All right, so in this case, the Abhorrent Overlord, as a crime lord, could be the leader of a powerful cult, or a crime boss for a tier 2 party in a campaign. And you could also relocate this Abhorrent Overlord to a different terrain, such as an underwater campaign, and then change its flying ability to like a swimming ability. And instead of making it like immune to poison, you make it amphibious so that it can breathe underwater. So doing things like that, reskinning the monster in that way, can just sort of help to give it a little bit of a different flavor and whatnot. Okay, I'm looking at the chat and I don't see any questions right now, so I'm going to go into the wrap up and then I will come back and look to see if there are other questions. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out tonight, and thank you for everybody that has followed Monster Monday um, throughout 2020, and we hope we will definitely see you back in the new year. Got a lot more Monster Monday where this came from, a lot more monsters to go because there's a lot more source books and everything, and like I said, we're right at the tail end of the monsters beginning with the letter A. So we have a whole rest of the alphabet to get through for Monster Monday, and we'll be at this a long time. If you want to see the multi-chair, multi-mic um, live streams that I do, you can tune in on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern for the Walker of Waterdeep, Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern for the Sword Coast Chronicles, and Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern for the Lost Mine of Original D&D. All of those appear right here on the twitch.tv channel. There are archives of everything that I do, as well as shorter form daily D&D content over on my YouTube channel. And then, of course, we do have the Patreon. If you all are interested in supporting that. Well, before we come back for another Monster Monday, we will be waving goodbye in the rearview mirror to the year that was 2020. Like I said, man, you want to talk about a monster of a year. 2020 has been a monster of a year. One of the worst stat blocks, worst boss monsters you will ever, ever see. For a lot of reasons. And that's one thing that just about everybody can agree on is that we'll say good riddance and goodbye to 2020. We definitely hope that 2021 will be better, and we really hope that all those of you who have joined us on this channel and on the YouTube for the last year, we hope that you will have a safe and happy new year, and we hope that we will see you back and that you will bring your friends for more content coming in the year that is 2021. All right, I see no further questions, so thank you. God bless. Good night. And I'll sign off as I always do by reminding you to watch out for the monsters under the bed. Good night, everybody.